Hi, good afternoon to our participants to this webinar on preparing and developing in the new normal. While the past 3 months have been tough for all of us, it has also had its positives. Today's webinars will focus on initiatives that HR and learning professionals can focus on to prepare their respective organizations for life in a post-COVID era, if you could call it that. June, by the way, is also Pride Month, and a segment of today's session will also focus on the Times Out and Proud campaign. All in all, I promise you that this session will be time well spent for all of you who have set aside time to join us today. Today's guest, a very special one, I want to introduce all of you to a very well-known HR and learning professional, Gaurika Tandon. Gaurika has 17 plus years of experience in HR across consulting and corporate. She's worked with diverse sectors such as media, HR consulting, pharma and healthcare, manufacturing, BPO services, ITES, etc., and has been responsible for HR transformation with focus on work, workplace, and workforce. Gaurika has run several HR interventions across multiple geographies, including India, US, APAC, MEA. Currently, Gaurika heads learning and engagement for BCCL, Bennett Coleman Company Limited, the Times Group. And she's responsible for formulating and driving the capability agenda, employee communication, and employee engagement initiatives covering 6,500 plus colleagues at BCCL. Gaurika is also an ISB and Symbiosis alumnus and is a graduate in economics from Delhi University, India, and is a certified coach and a diversity and culture facilitator. When she gets time, which I doubt she gets a lot of these days, she enjoys traveling and is a voracious reader. I'm sure the lockdown, though, allows Gaurika to probably catch up with some of her, reading, but traveling, unfortunately, no. Gaurika, welcome to our webinar. It's absolutely lovely to have you here, and really looking forward to sort of having a very, very interesting session across the different topics that we're going to cover today. I know we're covering a bunch of things, all very, very interesting, all very close to my heart. And so I'm really looking forward to a sort of interactive session today.
Thank you, Anthony. And the only thing I disagree with you on is the time. You said when I get time. Today, I don't get time at all. If it's not office, it's house. If it's not house, it's family. So I don't even get time to read. Unfortunately, I was reading a lot more when we were going to work. I don't know where I can find my time. I can't.
Actually, a lot of people, Gaurika, are saying that, and a lot of corporates actually have told us that they are finding that they're more productive in the last
work
than they have been. Do you feel that? Do you also feel?
I totally feel that the screen fatigue, because today suddenly, and in fact, I was having a call with my team yesterday, and we realized that today picking up the phone and calling the team at 10 o'clock in the night is okay. It never was. But today, because there's no break, there's no boundary between you being in office or you being home. I can just pick up the phone and talk to anybody at 9 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the night, and it's considered to be okay. But I guess we've got to put a stop to it at some point.
The lines are blurred between home and work, professional and personal.
Absolutely.
That's unfortunate. That is indeed unfortunate, because I think, well, look, we have to make the most of the situation. On one hand, you get to be home 24/7 with family, with kids, etc. But on the other hand, and you save on commuting time, which I think for a lot of us, we are in Mumbai, and I can tell you that in Mumbai, all of my colleagues and even my friends who commute to work, they're delighted not to be commuting to work anymore. So I guess when life gives you lemonades, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Make lemonade. Correct. Lemonade. Yeah, so that is a silver lining. So that is good, because you're able to repurpose a lot of your time of what Correct. You were spending in commuting, etc. But what I also miss is that water cooler conversation.
Yeah.
You know, that really kind of charges you up, but nothing else does. The way you could just walk for coffee with somebody and just be there and talk, I think that's what I miss a lot. But fair enough.
Something
do get a lot of time.
As Gaurika, you want to catch up on an item or something, you just grab a colleague and say, okay, let's just go into a conference room or to somebody's office, get a cup of coffee, maybe make some small conversation about family, life, etc., and then get on with work. It kind of has a different feel to it. I agree with you 100%. I miss seeing my colleagues in office. I see a lot of them. I see a lot of them today on Zoom, behind a screen, behind a digital wall. But it's not the same as getting into work and catching up with them every day. So yeah. So which sort of I've covered. I hope I have done justice to your professional career. Would you like to add anything to it?
Absolutely. It looked like you're talking about someone else. I didn't even realize I've done so much. But thank you. I'm just
want to do these kind of webinars, Gaurika, where we talk about your achievements, so that you know what you've done. Otherwise, you'll forget.
Thank you for that. No, absolutely. And I've been with Bennett Coleman now for about 8 years, and I've worked across industry. So I've had the good fortune to work with great teams, great people, and different industries. Thank you.
Wonderful. Now, when I was talking about working from home and family, children, etc., the first thing that popped into my mind is I wanted to ask you. So, who's at home for you? What's your family like? And tell us a little bit about home.
So, I'm an army officer's daughter, and my father is what you see in Bollywood movies, a Colonel Sahab. He took premature retirement, but only in physical sense, not in mind. He still is an army commander to all of us. I live with him. I call myself an adult, but I don't think he looks at me like that.
No, parents never do.
He's a total disciplinarian. He likes to have order in everything, and I'm actually really the opposite. I thrive in ambiguity. I thrive in impulsive decisions that I can take. I don't like doing the same routine, and that's a constant tussle, but it gives me help because what I learn is stakeholder management right from home, because I need to settle him and I need to settle the rest of us while I still want my own sense of ambiguity and my own sense of doing things differently. So yeah, that's my father. My mother's a homemaker, but she's also a Fauji wife. And what that makes her is, and she's a Wellamite herself. So she's come from a finishing school. So the porcelain has to be right, and you have to have your fork and knife just right. And if you leave it to me, I would not even pick up my bowl of cereal for 3 days if I could eat in the same bowl. So yeah, that's the diversity I stay with, and I have a 3-year-old niece who lives with me, and she's reteaching us life. She's a far more free spirit than any one of us or all of us combined, and she has also started questioning and having a point of view. So we have multiple point of views that exist, and I think diversity, for that matter, starts at home for me. All of us are different, and I think we're rediscovering ourselves during the lockdown. So thank God for that.
Totally. That's what most people are saying, that many ways they've got to spend time with loved ones, which they haven't. And I think that's the true positive or outcome out of this. And one question before we move into our webinar, which is, have your parents ever looked at each other and said, you know what, nothing of us has rubbed off onto her? Because
every day, 3 times a day, before I sleep and after I wake up. Yeah.
Because when you were talking about your mom, I realized that.
Totally.
Yeah, so there's none of that either. Huh?
None of that.
All right. Okay, so let's get started. For all of you who are on this session today, I want to kick the session off with a really lovely video that Gaurika has shared with us. In fact, there's another one which is coming later on in the session, but we'll kick things off with this one, which is a beautifully made video. This is all the employees at the Times Group, Gaurika, is that correct?
Correct. This is all BCCL employees.
Understood.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
आज रात 12 बजे से संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है। हिंदुस्तान को बचाने के लिए घरों से बाहर निकलने पर पूरी तरह पाबंदी लगाई जा रही है।
अपना बचपन जी लिया अपनी बेटी के साथ।
I've always had this inclination towards makeup, and this lockdown period really gave me some time to experiment with some of my looks which I've never done before.
A family that sings together stays together. It's not just the food that she serves, there's love and concern for everyone.
And the authorities, we started this initiative called Corona, wherein we have received huge and tremendous support and contributions from the public and from the members of the team. And we have fed around 1,500 families till now across the Tri-City.
So lovely, very, very lovely, nicely made video, Gaurika. I mean, what was the inspiration behind this? How did you all put it together? I mean, how did it come together? What triggered it off?
Great. So I think what really happened is the lockdown never really happened for us, if you ask me, because we're an essential service. We're in the business of news and news reporting and media. Therefore, for us, 25th of March was the same as 6th of April, was the same as 15th of April, is the same as today. We've still, you've seen the newspaper that has come every single day, except in Bombay, where we had a whole new challenge where the government banned the newspaper reaching houses. But that's a business challenge, having said that, because I guess all of us are in the same storm. But just that our boat was far more turbulent because we were operating yet with additional challenges. And even while the world was locked in, we were working. We were 100% operational. We print about 108 editions across the country. And we're present in almost every city, either through a direct newspaper or through an upcountry edition. But we're present practically everywhere. And the entire machinery of folks who aggregate news for us, write for us, as well as print, and then finally distribute were actually working. And there was a whole lot of workforce amongst us which was working remotely only to support those COVID warriors who were actually out in the field. And that time we realized that the one thing that came out really strongly is that we're all in it together. And that's how we started this campaign sometime early April. And we realized that we need to just bring our flock together and tell everybody that all of us have challenges. For example, in the media industry, if some of you do know journalists or people who write, it's not very ordinary for them to not be in office. So for them, they come to office, they have collective conversations while they're putting the news together. And similarly, the press guys, the guys who print for us, you cannot remote control printing at this point. So they were all going to work, and some of them were actually working from home. So the first thing we did is that let's just bring everybody together and let's run a thread through all of them. So we started out in HR world, as we would call it, with the LEAP framework. And we said that let's use this as an opportunity, because in every crisis, there will always be an opportunity. And that opportunity is what you have to seek and then consciously do something about. So we started with the LEAP format that you see on your screens right now, where we said that we will create this about learning opportunity. And the learning opportunities also had to look very different, because you couldn't call people into a classroom. We were doing some of it already in terms of virtual classrooms, but we realized that virtual classrooms had to become bite-sized classrooms. They had to become master classes of half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, because anything more than that is only going to cause screen fatigue.
Yeah, that's true.
Therefore, we said that let's look at internal SMEs. So the person that you see like a poster boy there is a senior vice president with us, Malcolm Raphael. He comes with agency experience. He's been on both sides of the table, buying, selling, and he's also a senior leader with us. And we got him in where we said that why don't we have all of us learn from your experience? So give us an hour of yours and we will create a learning masterclass out of it, where we showcase something about what's going on in the world, what is BCCL going to do about it, and if anybody can pick any learning from that conversation, it'll be good. So it's like an engaging conversation in which we are also skill building at some sense and some level. So we had Malcolm come in, and then we had other leaders that we brought in. We did about I think every Thursday, about an hour is when we convert. We called it the learning hour, and we had master classes that went in. We also started to aggregate a lot of bite-sized learning that MOOC providers give us. MOOC, for as all of you would know, are these generic online courses that are available for a certain cost. We did make some investment, and some of the MOOC providers came out as their help to the world, where they gave a lot of complimentary courses available. And these complimentary courses were ranging from how to manage your mind, how to be calm in a stressful situation, exam, etc., etc. Coursera came up with free courses. LinkedIn came up with free courses. When I say free, this basically was not just for us, but it was for the world. But we wanted to capitalize that because we had an eye out for it. We caught all of that together. We blended that in with our need, because there was a lot of complementary stuff available. It's also important to know what to pick. We picked what served our need, and we made a calendar out of it. And then we started advertising it, because learning content is one piece. Adoption is a whole new world. Yeah. So to actually get folks caught in and actually study and learn something and be engaged at the same time was the first thing that we did in that pillar. And all the LEAP framework that you see went on simultaneously. So the Thursdays were learning Thursdays. Similarly, we had engagement. Engagement, we gave the Wednesdays to engagement. And what we really have at BCCL is we have a certain framework that we follow in trying to engage an individual. We have 5 pillars that we follow, which includes work, organization, rewards, talent, etc. In that framework, we picked up a couple of things, where the first thing we picked up are these work from home contests, because we realized that people, employees, wanted to see each other, wanted to talk. So we picked that and we said, okay, this is an opportunity for us to get the families to come together. And the videos that you saw were videos where organically employees were trying to, what they were doing with their family, we told them to share with us. And we just stitched together some of these videos, and that's what you saw in the work from home video contest that we had. That was one side. And you know, in launching that, Anthony, I can tell you that within the first week of launching, we had more than 100 videos that came to us because employees were more than willing to tell us what they were doing at home. And
Correct.
we were just happy that they were happy, and we just brought that together. And the video is just a glimpse. We've just been able to take some of those videos, but we have more than 200 videos that came into us in 2 weeks. We had, and we also realized what is the other thing that an individual wants at this time. He wants probably some health and nutrition tips. That's what's taking a beating right now, and it because of the pandemic, which started as a health crisis, now becoming an economic crisis. But till the time, it was still a health crisis. And at that time, we thought it would make a lot of sense that we'll do some nutrition sessions or health and wellness sessions where we had doctors come in. We had clinical psychologists come and take certain sessions. We had nutrition experts come and talk about what can you do when sourcing is limited. I mean, it's good to say that you want to eat health foods, but there are no health foods available. So what do you do and how do you eat healthy? How do you stay healthy? We also have a lot of employee clubs where employees come together and they're empowered enough to do something on their own. These employee clubs, we have a photography club, we have a music club, we have a trekking club, etc., etc. They came together and they did events which we were able to roll out nationally. Similarly, volunteering. Now, this is a first time ever, not just in the media industry, but also across. We were able to find a partner for us who was able to give us aggregate volunteering opportunities which were virtual, which basically means you just click a button and you see all the opportunities where NGOs are asking for help, like, for example, making a P&L balance sheet for an NGO. Or helping underprivileged youth in making their resumes, just example. So we had a lot of HR people volunteer themselves. We had a lot of business people volunteer themselves in creating marketing collaterals for certain underprivileged organizations or NGOs. And that volunteering caught like, it really caught like wildfire. So a lot of these, because it was a time for people to look inwards and find purpose. And as an organization, we were happy to provide those opportunities. We created virtual sessions of yoga. The calendar that you see, actually, we have a renowned yoga expert on the left, and on the right is a BCCL employee, who is a certified yoga practitioner. And every day, 7 in the morning, she would get up and we would do live Zoom sessions where we had more than 300 employees logging in and doing yoga with Deepti. And we just used internal resources. The crux that I'm trying to say is that we just tried to use internal resources because we didn't have the budgets to spend. And if you just look inside and try and see how creative you can be to be able to bring resources together and make it available to employees to a larger purpose, it really works. That worked here. We had a lot of awareness campaigns, which I think a lot of organizations did. We had handbooks that we released of what are the guidelines, how do you stay safe. We had a lot of leader communication that went out of what is in it for you, because the lockdown, like all we know, was very staggered. What do you expect? What went off? Where's the organization headed? What are our priorities? Let's all come together. So a lot of communication. The only answer is communicate, communicate, communicate. Informal communication has to be staggered with some structured formal communication, which kind of brings everybody back together. So that's what we did in this pillar. And the final one, which to me is the most important, is the praise. I was mentioning that we have a lot of COVID heroes ourselves. We had folks who were braving the situation, who were out in the market, who were coming to office, etc., etc. And we started special campaigns where we actually internally talked about all the warriors who went beyond their call of duty, because nothing scares you more than your life and the loss of it. And these guys, these employees that we had, actually took it on them, the accountability and responsibility, to the next level, where they were willingly wanting to put their neck out and go the extra mile. So we started those programs ourselves, and we created those recognition points. And a lot of this, mind you, was not monetary. And the feedback that I get is that certificate or that email from the board or the head of HR went such a long way in the employee feeling recognized. So all in all, we had more than 4,000 unique employees who just logged into these initiatives on a base of 6,000. The other 2,000 that I've not mentioned are actually guys which we couldn't catch because technology is limiting. Technology takes a print of anybody who logs in or who sends in something. But I do know that we were able to touch all of them because we reached out to them, and I think it really did what it did in the month of April and half May, where we just settled everybody, and we were able to establish that we're in it together. So that's the response that I have for your small question.
No, that's Gaurika, this is wonderful because you have a lot of employees, and to kind of keep them motivated, engaged, and having fun while they're doing it is obviously not easy, because I think the move to work from home caught pretty much everybody by surprise. I think 99% of the organizations just didn't realize that this was coming. Else, if we had time to prepare, I'm sure organizations could have done a lot more. One question I have, and this is just off, probably a little off base, but I'm wondering, with all of these individuals who sort of took time, whether it's, I think is it Dipali who took time to teach yoga, or others like her. So you have probably ended up creating mini celebrities within your organization who are now suddenly well recognized. That's the yoga lady, that's the guitar guy, or whatever it is, and different things that they were teaching. Has that happened?
Of course, it's happened. So, and like I said, that we were recognizing our folks as well. So also that helps in the HR world. Employee advocacy is the best advocacy ever. So we could be saying a lot about how we are an employer of choice, and how we're a brand to reckon with. But the minute you have testimonials that you create in employee advocacy, that we genuinely care, and if you've got a skill, come to us, and we're happy to see how we can take that skill to the larger level. So what really happened is that we had a lot of employees come forward to tell us about their strength. So we were also discovering our employees as we went along. So I think it worked really well.
That's wonderful. I think you've discovered the hidden talents of many of your employees that you didn't know.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Moving on to awareness.
Awareness, I did mention, I did talk about it, that we were communicating and we were rewarding. So we did the entire LEAP framework.
Got it. No, I just thought you may want to emphasize a little more on that, but okay, great. So wonderful. So then now we are kind of all back together, stronger. So what was this campaign about? I mean, the Back Together Stronger Return to Work campaign.
So actually, the In It Together was a time of uncertainty where we were all locked down, and now is the time where we're unlocking. So we realized that, so if I were as an employee, and that's the principle, let's say a design thinking principle, where it says you keep the employee at the center. And if I were an employee and my employer is telling me that get back to work and offices are now open, what is it that my employee would have questions about? The first thing is that, is the establishment safe? When I go to office, will all the safety guidelines be followed? And what is expected of me to be part of that entire thing of being the office premises safe? So we said that let's now talk about, now that we were in it together during the lockdown, let's now, when we're unlocking, and in a staggered way at that, so we're also unlocking in a staggered way. Not 100% of us are not back to work yet. A lot of us are working remotely. And slowly we will move from an X% to a Y% to a Z%, and then all of us back to work. So while we do that, and in that journey, we wanted to spread this conversation, or have these conversations with employees, that one, our workplace is absolutely safe, because it never shut down for us. We've been sanitizing it from the very beginning. And the posters that you see here are all our employees, and these are live posters. So the lady you see on right is a lady working in the Jaipur office. The employees and colleagues that you see on the left side are all colleagues based out of Bangalore office, our Patna office, our Delhi office, etc., etc. So these are live places, because we did realize that employees will, if colleagues see themselves and people that they know, they get more reassured that office premise is safe. And we made these quick videos, which I haven't put up here, but we have those videos where we actually had employees sending on those videos, or we making those videos where the precautions at the office door. We,
Right.
for example, we just launched a health app, our own health app, where before you get to work, you're required to answer a couple of questions on your phone to the app, and those questions are: do you have fever, do you have cough, etc., etc. Pretty much on the lines of Arogya Setu.
Yes, Hitu. Hmm.
What the app does for us is that it calculates a score, and it keeps telling us of your health, and therefore it gives you the next steps of what you need to do after that. So let's say your health status is not green but it's amber. Then what do? Who do you reach out to? What kind of help can, as an organization, we give you? So if we see that there are certain parameters that come back to us as information, does that give us an action plan in return? So we're trying to do all of that, where our colleagues are probably assured of the fact, or hopefully are assured of the fact, that we are a compassionate organization. In fact, compassion and care is one of our BCCL core values. BCCL thrives on what we call classic, CLASIC, where C stands for collaboration in the beginning and C in the end stands for compassion and care. So as a compassionate and caring organization, it's important for us to spread that message that our employee safety is as important to us as is business continuity. So while
Absolutely.
on one side we're talking about business continuity and making sure that our processes are running fine, employee safety will be paramount for us, and there is no compromise at any point to be able to maintain the highest standards of safety. So therefore, the campaign that we're running as of now, as of today, is the Back Together Stronger. And in this integral part of the campaign is employee safety at work. And the second part is to actually reconnect with our employees on a higher purpose level of having a healthy mind, body, and soul. What we do see is HR doing these days is running employee assistance programs, but that's not what we wanted to limit it to or transactionally call it. Because at the end of the day, an employee would need assistance if he's uncertain in these kinds of times. What is in it for me? Where is the organization headed? Because we've also been hit by both revenue pressures, cost pressures. That's reality. It continues to be. So what kind of a mind uncertainty there can be, and we've got clinical counselors who are on our rolls as we've empaneled them, and they are available, and all of this with employee anonymity. So the names that you see in the middle poster there, those are very, very small for you to see on your screen. But those people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, with their email IDs and phone numbers, are available to any employee. And that the conversation between that person and the employee is completely anonymous.
Confidential.
Any conversation of any kind to be able to maintain a healthy mind. The yoga sessions that I was talking about, consider, and we've used technology quite a bit. So all the sessions that we had with Deepali or Surakshit ji have been recorded, and those recordings have been uploaded on our learning management system, which is we follow that. Now an individual can just go and click that and actually see a live session going on. And at the end of the session, the person has the email ID of Deepali as well as Surakshit ji, and they can reach out to them for any advice, correction that they require. So not only have we built our bank, we had live sessions. Now we've got repeatability and scalability of those sessions. So therefore, as an organization, we were able to bank on all of that, keep it with us. And now the scalability technology offers us is being utilized tremendously every day, and we are able to manage it. The best bit about LMS is that you can see who's visiting. You can see the profile of an individual who's benefiting from these programs.
Correct.
And if these programs are adding value, and they are, because they're still the most they're the most searched for sessions in our LMS even today. So those yoga sessions are up there, so you can have body and in fact not just yoga sessions. We also had an ergonomic session, because today everybody's working from home. People slouch on their couches, people sit out of their bedrooms, etc. So we had an ergonomic expert. These are trained, what's the right word? I'm sorry, I can't get the right word, but these guys are trained people in what we call FMT. It's a sister concern of ours, which is Vardhan, and they are clinically trained on the way the body needs to be operating. Right. So we had a session with them which talked about how do you sit right, what are the postures, how do you stand right, how do you sleep right. So again, your body kind of aligns well when you're working from home. And the third thing we're talking about is the soul again, which because we also have renowned if renowned yoga gurus who also do meditation. So if you wanted to get into a session of meditation and soul searching questions, etc., that help is also available. So in the Back Together Stronger, we've taken the ALP framework really. We continue to create awareness, which is communication from time to time. What am I supposed to do? What is expected of me? Where is the organization headed? All of that. That awareness campaigns continue. And if you do get the time, you must go to the Bennett Coleman LinkedIn page. We've got a lot of this already showcased there, where we are talking about some of the things that we're doing as an organization. So there is, we're talking about awareness and amplifying that awareness. Learning continues. We still have our MOOC provider courses that go. And in protection, we're talking about all the campaigns as well as all the steps that we need to take to make our office premise safe. So this is the campaign that we're running. It's about 2 weeks old and another 2 weeks to go before we start our next campaign.
Wonderful. So I got a couple of questions. One is, how many employees now out of your 6,500 have started working from a physical location? Is that you have?
Sure. We have about 25% who have started operating from an office premise.
Okay, that's
and a whole lot other are remotely working, which for us is also an office premise actually. So our distribution workforce works at depots which are outside. So a whole lot of them have also started returning to work.
And do you see this, a lot of organizations have said, employees don't need to come to a physical office location.
Google said it, TCS said it.
2020 and all of that, TCS. But I think there are a couple of other companies also who have not announced it, but they have definitely announced it internally to their employees. Even if they have not made a public announcement, they have told their employees that don't come to a physical office until the end of the year. You can work from home. So is that something that BCCL is thinking about, or is there always going to be a mix of come to office and yet some employees who come in and there'll be a certain percentage of the workforce that'll continue to work from home?
So Anthony, I think today, so Jack Ma just said that 2020 is a year of survival. If you're in business this year, the only thing that you're going to be doing is keeping your head above water.
Correct.
And whatever allows you to do that is what you should do. So a lot of these strategies or priorities as they are getting drawn up are very short term. And they are all speculative to a certain level where we're expecting for the macroeconomic conditions to get back. And having said that, operating a physical office is a huge operational cost. It takes a huge amount of cost on the electricity as well as a lot of other logistics that are involved with it.
Correct.
So as an organization, when you open up an office, so a lot of businesses are not opening up right now because they need, for example, the restaurants. I was reading, incidentally in my own newspaper, but I was reading about that. And there's a conversation about hoteliers and restaurant owners. And they're saying that to be able to open a restaurant premise, we need to invest anywhere between 20 to 30 lakh of rupees. One is the rental negotiation. Second is the electricity. Then there is a whole lot of social distancing that needs to be maintained. So they don't have that many tables that they can put. They also they will only be able to have a certain number of people entering the restaurant. So the actual startup of an office requires a lot of investment. The sanitization of it will require a lot of investment. And then you're limited because the demand in the economy right now is supremely effective. And everybody can speculate about how that locked up demand is going to be. It could be impulsive buying, it could, or probably it could just dry up a lot more because funds are very scarce to come by. So therefore, a lot of organizations will require to adjust their business operating models. The business operating model of how do you want to operate, how do you want to engage the customer. Now,
Correct.
a lot of those conversations from will move away of pehle hota tha where you had to ask that, can I do this virtually? Now the question will change of, do I really need to do this in person? So the approach will change, and since the approach is changing, depending on the organization and the business the organization is in, the operating model will change. So in India, a TCS, or for that matter Google, when you see a lot of these IT and ITES giants, they were anyway in a virtual world. They are servicing clients from an India office where if they are on calls, they are perpetually on calls, and those calls are virtual calls on any kind of platform. So for them to operate and do their business from wherever that they are is probably not a new way of working. It is just an old way of working.
Got it.
The brick and mortar organizations, the traditional organizations, it's a choice available to them. And I think that's where we'll watch out of how many more organizations would want to go virtually. But as far as BCCL is concerned, I think the direction we will take is a combination. We are not going to say everybody works from home, and we probably are not yet ready to call everybody back to office as well.
Yeah.
We're going to be watching this and defining it as we go forward.
I think a lot of organizations will play it by the ear and adopt a hybrid model, which involves some people working from home and some people working from physical office location. One last question before we move on, Gaurika. So as the learning lead for your organization, do you feel that, in the last 3 months, your learning objectives have mostly, if not all, been met? Can you check that box, or do you feel that, getting back to the physical world is still a necessity?
So I think boxes will never be ticked ever on anything, because whatever you want to do, if you want to get to that depth, there will always be something more that you want to do. And having said that, limitations will not be, it will not be a physical boundary anymore. So time, date, and place is passé, because everything is about what do you want to achieve and how do you want to achieve it. It's less of a constraint today of whether I'm physically available in office or I'm physically available in a time zone. I mean, if it's task based, then I'm more accountable also, because I need to finish what I need to finish. I need to achieve what I need to achieve, and so all of this will just evolve. So for me, the boxes will never be ticked.
Okay, fair enough. I guess in today's day and age, I just chatting with a few friends the other day, and we were talking about how in today's day and age, I think as an employee, digital compatibility with your co-workers is going to be important. I mean, there is something to be said about some people are better behind a digital screen, and some people are obviously better in person. They're very effusive, they're charming.
I just wish I had the choice of who I want to keep behind the screen and who I want to face just face to face.
Unfortunately, you won't have that choice.
That's the trouble.
All right. So, that's a segue into our sort of next, the question that we put out on our LinkedIn handle, Gaurika, when we were drawing up this webinar session, is D&I killing meritocracy? And so this is basically sort of the responses that we got, where clearly the majority, almost 80% of those who responded to the survey said, no, it's not. So, and of course, there is a segment, and 20%, 21% is still a fairly sizable segment that feels, yes, it is. Now, I know this is a topic very close to your heart, Gaurika. So what do you think of these stats? And there are a couple more stats that I want to share, but I'd like your early thoughts on this one before we move forward.
No, I'm very glad that the pies come out the way it's come out. I would have hoped for it to be more stark than it is.
Maybe
But I'm
95
glad.
or 95.5, huh? That would have been perfect.
Yeah, totally. I'd like to just finish off the yellow part at all, completely. So I think meritocracy is enabled by diversity, is the way I look at it. And meritocracy basically means that you need to have a level playing field. Now, if there's anybody who's sitting with a disadvantage, will never get the opportunity to be considered in the merit list. And therefore, it's extremely important to be inclusive, to know that you're not breeding the same kind of people. So it's not a bread factory where we need all white slices in a certain dimension. It's a buffet, and only then would you be able to cater to the palate of a larger audience. And if that's what we want to do, then diversity is the way to go. And at no point should diversity get into extreme measures. So the extreme measures when we are not following diversity is when you get into reservation. But that's an extreme measure because the natural world of diversity or the natural course is getting disrupted. And therefore you start getting into the world of reservation, which people start feeling that there is some amount of threat to meritocracy.
So here's another question for you then, Gaurika. What is the natural way to enable diversity and to build a more inclusive organization?
I think a natural way to be would be where you're just inclusive in thought. Diversity to me is a thought and inclusion is action. So I may think I'm a person who likes diversity, but where is the action? Where is the output that I can measure how diverse you are? When I look at you as a people manager, do I notice that you tend to favor a same set of people? Is it, and it doesn't have to be gender alone. Diversity at no point ever meant for it to be of gender. There is a whole new dimension of racial diversity, of age diversity, of ethnicity, etc., etc. There are some 7 different pillars that the world measures today on diversity. So as an onlooker, just out of just pure onlooking and not even getting into details, when I see the kind of people that you're working with, the people that you're talking to, and not necessarily as part of your team, but people you have lunch with, people that you go out with, are they all the same kind? And that's when you know that while you think you are diverse or you accept diversity, your inclusion output does not say so. So a natural sense for yourself would be to just step back and see that, am I talking to the same kind of people? Am I working with the same kind of people? Is it a certain age group? Is it a certain gender? Is it a certain culture background? Is it a certain class or culture divide? So am I talking to different kinds of people? And if I'm doing all of that, then I think I'm naturally allowing diversity to take its place.
Okay, that's fair enough. So that so a couple more slides, Gaurika, food for thought here. Really, the demography of those who said yes. A third of them, maybe surprisingly or not, were women. 33% of those who responded to yes, DNI is, who responded by saying yes, DNI is killing meritocracy, were women, and 67% were men.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It is interesting because so one thought is, Gaurika, a lot of women, for example, feel that they don't want to be viewed as a diversity candidate. And I think that's where a lot of the 33% comes from, right? That I am not a diversity candidate. I have earned this on my own merit, and therefore I have a problem if I'm viewed as somebody who is sort of like got undue benefit, advantages, etc. And that's I think where some women feel that they would rather not have diversity at the office. Of course, diversity doesn't just include gender. it includes everything else as we just discussed, but this could be one of the reasons why women feel that way.
Correct.
Interesting. The demography of no is more balanced, which I think is good for the world, if I could say that, because it means that men and women are more or less aligned on the fact that D&I is not killing meritocracy, and hopefully their view is that this should be a way of life. I mean, we have to figure out a way to make our workplaces more diverse and inclusive.
No, that's right. I think it's also how the woman who perceives that she doesn't want to be perceived as a diversity candidate, what is the cause of her perception is the larger worry. And if as a world we are able to settle that fear, that's when we really arrive.
You know, I'll stick my neck out a little bit and say that one of the reasons for that fear is possibly snide remarks passed by colleagues, and those colleagues might be microscopic minority, but still that one comment that is directed at you can make you make one feel very, very vulnerable and
insecure.
And consequently, so it's a way. So that is, in fact, that probably is the one argument that actually sort of goes in favor of the fact that you need a more diverse and inclusive workplace, because in such a workplace, such kind of insecurity would not exist.
Also, I think as a woman myself, I can say that at the end of the day, it's a psychological construct of the individual of what is it that I want to play more. So I could have got what I could have got for any reason, but now that I've got it, what am I doing with it?
Yeah.
If I'm in a certain position, there has to be something as an outcome that comes out, and
Correct.
therefore my work talks for me. And in which case, even if there are side comments, they shouldn't matter. Because at the end of the day, it's an opportunity and there is somebody occupying that opportunity. So it's more important than the conversations. In fact, I was reading the other day, I think on one of the media platforms, which said that why would we even talk about leadership as divided between men and women? Leaders are leaders. And by definition, the word leader is gender agnostic.
Correct.
So the fact that we're now slicing this out and saying, okay, do you have young leaders? Do you have old leaders? Do you have new leaders? Do you have mature leaders? It doesn't matter. A leader is a leader, and what is it that he's doing to lead is what should eventually prevail. But I think that's like nirvana stage to be in.
No, that said, Gaurika, I'll give you the counter, sort of response to that. One of the reasons why we slice and dice it is also to make us painfully aware that maybe 90% of the leaders are one strata or one set of people, either it's gender or what have you, right? So when you look at the data that way, then it tells you that, okay, this is the kind of, sort of data we're looking at, and therefore there is for more diversity and for more inclusive workplace. So that could be the reason why we do that.
Correct. That's something that an HR person should think about, because those kind of conversations will come when you're starting to look at pipeline and you're starting to look at who do you want to invest in and bet on. Therefore, I may look at some data and say, okay, who makes a cut, and that's actually your consumer dynamics that any marketing guy would do. So an HR person would also be required to actually see who makes the cut and on what competency, and demographics tend to be one of the anchors. But my only thought to that is that cannot be the only anchor.
Correct.
And so long as that itself is an inclusion, it's an inclusion paradox. You will include it, and yet you will have a diverse set of parameters that you would look at, but you shouldn't leave anything out. You should include everything and then make a more informed trend analysis, so to speak.
Agreed. So my favorite part of the segment, Gaurika, the Times Out and Proud campaign. This has been a wonderful campaign, but I want you to sort of walk us all through what the campaign's been, and then of course we'll culminate in that absolutely wonderful video that you've all created.
Right. So, as an organization, we are an organization which is responsible, and I did mention that we're a compassionate and caring organization. In the same spirit, we look at diversity very, very seriously, and we ourselves run a lot of campaigns inside the organization to promote it. But we also have an advantage. We get to talk about a lot of this externally as well to make a difference in the society. And one such campaign that you see on the screen right now is the Times Out and Proud campaign. We just won an INMA award as well for this campaign, where we just provided a platform and tried to bring focus to the fact that that the world needs more inclusion, and any divide which is based on any of these sexual preferences of an individual should not be a reason for exclusion in any way. And therefore came the Times Out and Proud campaign. It was launched last year, where we called it Out and Proud because we said that with our medium, as an individual, you can come out and you don't have to be behind the closet. And we will allow you that platform. We will tell your story to the world if you allow us, and we'd be happy to support any of you in any way that we can. And therefore we gave them space in our newspaper where they could come and talk about their story. It could mean anything. It could mean something where they're trying to get a partner. It could mean if they wanted to get help in getting a room on rent for themselves, because some of them are shunted away. They don't even get to ask for a place to stay. So depending on what is it that their struggle or journey was, we said that we as an organization will try and contribute in our way to take your journey forward. And that's how this campaign came in. I think you should play the video. It'll talk a lot more.
Oh yeah,
justice to it.
that video is absolutely it's just beautifully made. So let I'm just going to play the video. Yeah.
Is it fine?
For the world, I've always been there out. More of the women will get to know I'm alive, so yes, why not?
Of course, there is someone like that out there. Haven't you watched Dil To Pagal Hai? Don't be stupid. For everyone, there is one person. That's what Yash Chopra said, and I believe him completely.
We decided to go and stay together. My mother called him up and said,
I have bought crockery and utensils for the Babu, hoping that he would get married. He doesn't understand anything about it. Why don't you come and choose what you want?
My parents never knew a boy would sit like this, wearing makeup in front of the camera. They didn't know anything. Only thing which bothers me is that no one should say anything to my parents.
I came out of the closet first to my mom. My dad has no idea about this yet. And I at times feel that if I tell him right now that you know what, I'm into women, he'll be like, tomorrow I'm coming tomorrow, I'm taking you back and let's get you married.
As we approach our 15th year together, we want to thank our families and friends, straight and gay, for being by our side and making us feel like a normal couple.
our relationship has enriched us and made each of us a better version of ourselves.
A 21-year-old human looking to rent a 2 BHK apartment in a non-judgmental society, to stay with my family and a partner if I find him in future. I want a peaceful space where I can be myself, step in and out with whoever I like, and wear whatever I want to without any judgments.
I'm a 36-year-old Mumbai man looking for someone well settled, and he should have hobbies and be passionate about them. And he should most certainly love cats.
Dad, I like women. Though I know you dream otherwise for me. Remember you told me not to live my life basis people's opinions? You will have grandkids. But I'd rather prefer her to have the baby. I'm bringing someone home for lunch, so be less excited and Dad, just be calm.
So I've got to tell you, Gaurika, every time I watch that video, it brings a lump to my throat. I think it's just so beautifully done.
Yeah, I think it a picture or a video is just a different. It's a different emotion that it touches.
Totally. I mean, I've seen this video now quite a few times, but every time I watch it, it feels like,
I'm glad.
yeah, it's beautiful. It really, I think anybody who watches it, it should kind of touch a chord somewhere deep inside. It is really one of those beautifully made videos, and of course, naturally, it's an initiative that's wonderful, and I'm so glad that TUI has done this. So how has it been received? Both by the LGBTQ community and others as well. Have you been getting a lot of feedback on this?
So while I may not be privy to those numbers of who've reached out, it's a brand campaign that was running. But I do know, and I hear from business leaders that it was received really well. And I just mentioned it got us an award as well for an initiative in our advertising circles. So therefore, this has really been well. But I do want to tell you, Anthony, this is not the only campaign we do. We've done a lot of other campaigns. In fact, we don't have much time, but there is this campaign that we did on Sindoor Khela in Calcutta, where there is this legacy that runs where a certain sector, which is the LGBTI sector, are not allowed to play the Sindoor Khela after the Durga Puja. And we ran a campaign where we actually got this section of the society to come in and play, and we created a short little video around it, and that itself I think that is a lot more emotional than this. So Anthony, I'm going to do this. I'm going to send that link to you. You should take a look at that one as well. And depending on where we are and what part of the world we can really we can touch or influence or nudge, we'd be happy to do that. In fact, there are a whole lot of other, like I was saying, diversity is in thought. All of this is thought. But as far as action is concerned, we've also been able to provide a lot of platforms to certain segments that require that extra platform to just come to the world of meritocracy.
Correct.
So we've got awards that we're running, and maybe that's the next slide that we can show on the kind of programs that Bennett Coleman is doing. One of the things on the right that you see at the bottom is a Times Woman Drive. And this Times Women Drive is only meant for women. And the caption is really nice. It says, driven by power and 6 inches ke heels. So it's to break the myth that women don't drive well. And it's a myth that I cannot drive with heels on. Well, I wear my heels because I like them, but I'm also a very, very safe and a responsible driver, a person who can drive well. So there are those campaigns that we run on one side. The other campaign that you see on the left is author awards, where we brought around a lot of women authors who could come forward, and we would give them the platform to be discussed, and where they can actually bring forth their work. So those were author awards that you see. On the left, on the top, you see a She Unlimited, which was a series we started for she entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs who are in the fields of fitness, home and living, travel and experiences, which basically kind of show to you that these are those women entrepreneurs who followed their passion. And is there a way that we can bring them forward? And if there is anybody, and not just women for that matter, but anybody who can get inspired and who's able to either kill that fear, break a boundary, come forward, live their dream, it'll be the true test of a campaign like that. And on the right hand side that you see is actually an internal women group that are BCCL colleagues. And we have a Women Extraordinary Club that we run. And these are chapters that we run, pretty much like a society runs. And we have a Bombay chapter, we have a Chennai chapter, we have a Chandigarh chapter, Delhi chapter. And a lot of women then come together and just express themselves. And as an organization, we're just kind of putting the wind in that sail to see if there is anything that we can help or support, where nobody should lose an opportunity because they didn't get the opportunity to come forward, or they didn't get an opportunity of a platform where they could display their strength.
Correct.
Organization, we're doing this both internally and externally, and we very strongly believe in the merit of it.
No, that's absolutely wonderful, Gaurika. And really, I mean, looking at all of these campaigns that BCCL has been running, really, I think these do wonders in terms of sort of really getting, creating a more diverse and inclusive culture at the workplace. So this is definitely something that, wow, this is great. I know that we are very, very behind time. I think we have overshot our time by almost 25 minutes. So thank you so much, Gaurika. This was an absolutely fantastic session. And I know we ran over a little bit, but I'm going to seek your indulgence for another 5 or 7 minutes. If there are any questions, we can sort of take those questions as well. So let me just quickly go to the Q&A segment. Okay. I don't believe we have any questions, or am I not reading it correctly? No, I think we're good. No real questions as such. I may have asked all the questions on behalf of everybody on the team, or I think people are just still digesting what they have seen. We have one question. Sumali is asking, or rather, it's a comment really. Fantastic session, Gaurika.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumali.
Especially. That's sweet. Thank you, Sumali.
Thank you.
It was really a session that I think there's lots that, I mean, look, I've been a TOI and ET reader now pretty much all my life. So for me, this was, I was relieved to get my physical newspapers back. I'm so relieved that they've just started coming. And it tells you a little bit more about an organization and gives you some ideas about how culture can be built. I think that's one of the ways we do it is by learning from what everybody else is doing. And what you're all doing there really is something really special. So we've got another question. How far are we behind in terms of LGBTQ plus inclusion at workplaces in terms of our society?
Interesting question. Well, my response to that is that it's not a fair question, because it's a very wide scale, and the fact that you're asking of our society is discriminating itself. So technically speaking, different people, different organizations are at different parts of their own journey of discovery of where they are. And you will always have pockets of disappointment, and you will always have pockets of hooray. So fortunately or unfortunately, as a society, we shouldn't generalize. It's not a fair generalization to make.
Oh, that's fair enough. Whether who is ahead and who is behind is something also which is very hard to kind of make a judgment on. So every society kind of progresses at its own pace. Sumali is asking, Gaurika, do a lot of physically challenged people find a place in BCCL as a part of D&I? What percentage? Is that something that you have a number on?
I don't have a number, so to speak, really. But yes, we have employed a lot of physically challenged employees as well. We have a significant population, but I don't have a number to quote, so to speak. But we're not closed to anybody applying to us on merit. There are only certain jobs that we have where it is not advisable. For example, we have press floor.
Yeah.
So on the shop floor, we wouldn't encourage it, for example. But having said that, we're not close to anybody applying to us.
So does your recruiting team have any kind of clear guidelines in terms of X amount of diversity threshold must be met, or is it it's not really anything casting
No, we don't constrict it by putting those percentages
numbers?
because
Okay.
but the biggest guideline that we have for all recruiters is you should not hire for any reason and watch for biases if there is anybody asking for a particular type or size of a resume. So we have those. So our recruiters are trained to actually have a conversation and find diverse profiles in the first place. But we don't limit or constrict them by saying that there's an X percentage you have to meet.
Fair enough. No, and I think that goes back to the sort of conversation we were having earlier, right? Do you want to actually put a number to it? Do you want to just leave it a little open and flexible rather than mandating things? So we have another question. Great session, Gaurika. Loved the video. How is BCCL dealing with issues regarding employees who are comfortable getting into the office during the pandemic? Does the company give the employees a choice of whether they want to come in or not?
So, of course, there is a conversation. But there are certain roles, and while as we are unlocking in a phased manner, we're not doing this at an employee level. We're doing this at a role level. So, what is the role that you're playing? What part of the process are you in? And therefore, you would be so as an option. For example, I'm a people manager myself, and I have a team. So when I know that I have a certain task and I need certain things to be done from office. For example, if there are invoices that need to be processed, there is stamping and signatures that are required. So there is a signing authority and he or she is required to come to office to sign, then he or she would be the first person who will be asked. But having said that, I did tell you that we've got this app that we're running where we have questions that the employee answers on his mobile phone. And therefore, there is an option that he or she exercises of telling the organization whether he is wanting to come back to work and he's fit to come back to work or not. So there is a combination there. In certain cases, we would like to offer that choice, but if the role so demands that we cannot offer the choice, then we cannot. But we're allowing the employee to express any concern at all, and we'll try and address it in any way.
Got it. Another question is, in the employment application form, does BCCL ask employees if they belong to a diverse background? I guess what kind of question?
We don't have an employee application form. We have a resume, so it's a self-declared form.
So the resume is everything, and then
the resume, which means it's the choice of the person who wants to declare what he wants to.
Yeah, fair, and that's I think the best way to go. We have another question. You mentioned that reservation is extreme. Do you feel that we need something as extreme as reservation for the LGBTQ community to find its place in our workplaces, given the biases we carry?
Trick question, because see, the minute you start reservations so the challenge that you do is one that we're at a place where people disclosing this, people are not comfortable coming out of the closet. It is not a disclosed thing just as yet in terms of majority. Correct. And if we were to do this as a reservation, then are we starting a new wave that we will not be ready for? Do we want individuals to come out like that? And do we want individuals to misuse that reservation? Will I get into a whole new loop that I will not know how to deal with? So isn't it neater that I train my mind and I train my workforce to not discriminate rather than try and reserve places where I'm just dealing with a whole new monster that I'm creating?
Agreed.
Personally, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I'd probably agree with you because I do believe that sensitizing the workforce and training the workforce, opening their minds, removing biases, those are better ways to actually deal with this than to kind of force it upon people in the form of reservations. I'd probably agree with you for most part as well. So Neil says that the session was absolutely brilliant, and the video was the cherry on top of the cake of what was a very interesting session. I personally know the people who worked on the video as well, and got an insight into how they even got acknowledged at Cannes. if you had to rate the scale of growth of the LGBTQ awareness amongst non-LGBTQ folk in India, it's India, it's not even BCCL, huh? How would you rate it in terms of maybe percentage growth or some other metric? I mean, is there...
Don't think I can answer that question. I'm not an authority who can take even a guesstimate at that, and it's very insensitive of me to guess that.
Sure.
I don't think I have. I can't.
I think we could safely say that at least those people who have watched the video would have definitely been touched in some way or the other, and probably, if not all their biases removed, at least to a greater degree, they would be hopefully more accepting and of the diversity that we all are a part of. So I don't know, but yeah, you're right. It's very hard to put numbers to that kind of a question, though. Somali is asking, are some of your own employees out and proud? How comfortable are their colleagues around them? This you may have seen.
So I haven't met everybody who works with us. We're a huge organization with about 10,000 odd direct plus indirect workforce. So I haven't been to all the offices. BCCL offices are across the country, and some of our offices are huge. So even if you go in, if somebody of you is in Bombay and has seen our CST office, it's huge. You'd probably take 2 days to just walk around the office. So I personally have not been there, and I have not come across as a person who's come and spoken to me. But because I'm an HR person, I do get a sense, and I know that as far as our policies are concerned, we've not had any discrimination that I'm aware of that has been reported on it. And if there is, and we don't have a case that I can think of where there is anybody who had to come forward and say any of this. And having said that, I'm not part of the committee, so it's not fair on me also to have to say anything here, because a lot of these cases get their own respect of anonymity. Personally, I have not come across anybody facing any challenge. And as I walk around the office, I see a lot of diverse workforce. I see millennials. I see journalists who walk in their bag jeans and the kind of attire that they wear. I see production guys walk in uniform. So look at the diversity. The production guys on the shop floor are given uniform, and they are wearing a uniform which is safety related. There are safety standards. And then I'm talking about my sales force, which is completely dressed in formal attire because they are visiting client locations. So they are dressed formally. And then we have the enabling functions and the journalists who probably don't have to face external clients, so therefore are dressed comfortably in whatever they are in. So having said that, it's unfair to actually go around judging of who is out and who's not proud and who's proud. So I will reserve my comment on that, because I'm not the right person to even comment if anybody's come out or not come out, is happy, unhappy. I don't think I have a sense on that.
No, fair enough. Well, I think we have overrun our time by quite a lot. So I'm not going to keep you back, Gaurika. Thank you so much. This was an absolutely wonderful session, a real eye opener for many of us who've been here. And for those who missed it, we will be making this available on the Rainmaker website as well. So for those of you who have missed it, you can catch it there. But thanks again, and here's wishing everybody at BCCL safety and staying well in these troubled times. So here's to all of you. I think we are all getting our daily dose of news, etc., courtesy your organization, and of course others who are working really hard to get news over to us. So a big thank you to you and all of your colleagues who make this possible. And thank you for being on this webinar as well.
My pleasure, Auntie. Thank you, and here's wishing all of you stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. Thanks, Gaurika.
Thank you. Bye-bye.